Hello everyone! Today I will be teaching how to make a cape with damp track essentially. So what we can do here is we can flow this around and back and forth like that, and then we can also use FK on this cape. So say you wanted it to actually be positioned on an object or something was underneath it, or you wanted some special effects to it. You can do that with this, which is really a lot of fun and it's super simple to make. And even when you use the FK, you can grab the root bone over here, and it'll actually still keep the depth check to it, and it works. It looks really nice on characters. So let's get into it. All right. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make some sort of cape shape, and then after doing so, we can add a solidify and a subdivision surface. Alright, so once you get a cape shape, we can add in a UV sphere. And then just drag this to the side. And then we can scale it down. And then Control A to apply scale. And then this will actually be a custom bone shape later down the line. And you'll see what that is as we get into this. So then we can go into edit mode. And then once we're in edit mode, we can go into front mode and just select the very center edges. So the edges that go horizontal and straight. And we can go into top view to select the rest of them really quickly. So we go Shift Alt and just select these edges right here. And then once you've done that, you can press Control I to invert the selection. And then you can press the delete key or X key to delete vertices. And then now that we've done that, we're left with this outline right here. And then we just want to add a skin modifier while we're in edit mode. So go generate skin, and then we can press A, Control A to scale. And then I like to put this on smooth shading, so then it's kind of round, which is pretty nice. So then we can go back to object mode and head back over to the cape. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and start making the armature for our cape. So let's go ahead and add in an armature single bone. And we can just go to the running man over at the right side and change this to in front. And then press GY and drag it over here. Now we can go to edit mode and we can duplicate this really fast and name this one root bone. By pressing F2, we can get this name menu. And then we can just name it root bone. And you can press enter to continue with the name. And then it'll actually be named it. When you press F2 again, you'll see it's named root bone. So now we can do that with this one as well. So for this one is a part of our cape. So this one will be cape center .001. Alright, so now that we've named this one right here, we can go into side view and then just rotate it by 90 degrees. And if it's the wrong direction, just push the negative sign and it'll invert the direction. And then we can just drag this up a little bit. And since we can't really see through this, we can go into X-ray mode and it'll make it a little easier to see. And then we can drag this back a little bit because we don't want it too big. And I'll just drag it to the very edge right here. So now we can extrude on Y again. And there's a really handy way to extrude a bunch of bones down, which is just Shift R. So if you do Shift R, it repeats the previous extrusion, which is really, really nice. So what we can do is we can go one past here. So then we have these in here, and this is like an extra bone that we need. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what I like to do is I like to line these up right up with here, so you can kind of just go on the y-axis since this is straight and just kind of line it up a bit so then they're all even on here. Just drag it back a little bit. And then now that these are for the most part even, they don't have to be perfect or anything, but if you want to make them perfect you can. The next part of this is we want to select these bones right here and just select the whole bone. And then we can extrude on the x-axis to the side. And you'll see that it drags a bunch of bones out at once, right where we want them. So now that we've done this, we've extruded it out. We actually want to name each one of these already. So start with the first one, and we'll press F2 on there. And we'll just change this from this one to cape.l.001. And then press Control A and then Control C to copy that. And then press Enter. And once you press Enter, it will save it. And since we have it at .001, it will actually increment it each time we paste this. So we don't have to change the number. So when we go Enter, it will automatically update to 2. So then we just keep doing that down the line. Alright, so now that we've made it to the end of the line, we can select all these balls right here to the end, and then extrude on the x-axis all the way out to right here, and then shift R one time. So then we also have extra bones on this side. This is important for the dam track. So now that we've done that, what we can do after this is we can actually select these bones right in the center here. And then also this bone back here. So we want to select all of these bones right here. And once you have those bones selected, we'll press Shift D to duplicate it, and then right click to bring it back to the original selection, original position. So then go Alt P to clear parent, which will make them all their own individual bones. And then go Control L, and then press period key on the keyboard, and change it from medium point to individual origins. Once you have it that, you can press S to scale it down, and this will allow us to scale it each one individually. So then we can scale it to about the center of each of the bones. And once you've done that, we can go to pose mode really fast. Don't unselect any of these bones. So now that we're in pose mode, go down from the running man to the green bone down here, and open up viewport display, and you'll see custom object. And then if you go in here and click in the text box, you'll see sphere, which is actually the object that we made earlier, and it's really nice for creating custom objects. So now that we've done that, what we can do is we can create the scale that we want. Maybe we want it a little bit bigger than that. So we can scale it up to 1.5. But a handy trick for scaling this is if you select it and drag down, you can change all their size at once, and then go 1.5, enter. It makes it really easy. Alright, so now that we've done that, we can copy this to all of them, and copy the scale as well. And if you notice, some of these bones are inside of each other. So what we can do to fix that is we can just drag each bone to the tip of the bones, and then it'll always be their own bone. So if we drag this Y, and just drag it till it's close to the tip right there, we can go copy all the selected right here. These will actually be our controller bones later down the line, which is really nice because they'll do FK and such for us, which allow us to fake physics. So what we can do now is we can go back to edit mode, and we need to do a parenting cycle with each of these bones. Basically what we want to do is select the small bone and then the bone directly before it. So we can go Control P and keep offset, and then select this one, and you want to select the one that goes behind, so up like this for each of them. Alright, and then next we can do these center bones, so we just go Control P and go back on those as well until the very last bone. Alright, now for this last bone right here on the back, it will actually be parented to the small bone. So we can parent that to the small bone really fast, and that's because there's no bone behind the small bone. So we just parent it to the FK bone basically. So now that we've done that, we can do is parent this small bone to the root bone. So we can go like this, parent that really fast. And now we're done with edit mode for the most part. So we go back to pose mode, and we can start adding in our FK first, and then we'll go into the dam track. FK is simpler because then we don't have to change the position of bone constraints. So basically, what we want to do here is select this bone right here, the one that looks like our controller, and then select the bone right behind it. So then you can go Control-Shift-C and add a copy rotation. And this automatically sets up the copy rotation for you, and it's really nice to use Control-Shift-C. So go ahead and do that for all of these. They will always be the bone behind. Alright, so now that we've set up all the copy rotations, we can now do damp track, which is where we actually get the magical cape effect. So what we want to do for that one is we want to select this front bone right here and go to this bone that's green right here and go Control-Shift-C and do damp track and set a copy rotation. And this will basically place a damp track right after your copy rotation. I want to do that for each of these. Alright, so now we've gotten all the damp tracks and copy rotations on, I instantly put a copy rotation on this bone, and we actually don't need one on that one. That is because it is actually already parented to this one, so it's just for this bone that we don't need the copy. Go and select this bone right here, and then press A on the keyboard, and that'll select all of these bones, and we can mess with the copy rotation for all of them at once. So select the local space on each of these copy, and then right select them and copy to selected for both of them. And then on the damp track, change this to 1.7 or 0.7, not 1.7, just 0.7. And then after that, copy to selected, and it should be 0.7 for all of them. And you can confirm by just selecting down. But after we've done that, this will actually already start working ahead of time. So you can drag this up and down by the ball one. Now there is one problem that comes across right away. So notice even if we play, it gets this really weird funky effect. We don't want this effect. So basically what we want to do is select on this root pawn that we made earlier, bring it to keyframe 0 and just insert any type of keyframe you like. I like to do scale because it won't really do any scaling on this, and since it's the root bone. But notice it fixes it right after you add that keyframe. It's a really weird thing with damp track, but you can also do fun stuff now. Now you can do it live and it will auto reset even while you're grabbing it, and then you can drag it back and it will reset. It's real nice. But now what we want to do is we want to duplicate this to the other side. So we can go into object mode, and since on these ones we did .L, we can actually symmetrize it really easy. So we press A, and then right click, and then symmetrize. And then that basically will copy all of our constraints over to the other side, so then we don't have to do that. So then we can drag with a full cape. Now, we want some more control to this. We want to add a driver to each of these damp track influences, because this is how much physic-like stuff happens. So basically, on this guy right here, in the root bone, you want to go to the green bone, and go all the way down to the bottom, and custom properties, pretty hard to find, because it's way down here. So then you can drop it down, and then click new, and we can click this settings icon right here. I want to name it Cape Physics. And once you name it Cape Physics, we want to change the default value, so 0.7. And this is the starting value for whatever you want your cape to basically start at. So we press OK, and it'll be at 1, so we can click a reset to default value, which is the value that we just set basically. So now, if you right click on this and you go copy as new driver, we can then go back over to these green ones and we can go up to the bone constraints, and inside of your damp track on the influence value, right click on it and go paste driver. And if you pasted the driver correctly, it will actually light up as purple. So then we can do that to all of the damp tracks on the whole entire setup. There is no way to quickly do this, so you have to do it for every single bone. Alright, so now that we've added the driver to each of these bones, you can double check by just selecting them all. I recommend double checking because sometimes you can accidentally place another copy rotation. I've done that a couple of times before. But once you have that all set up, basically just grab it and you can move it around. And then if we want to change the amount of physics that we got, we can bring this up a bunch by going up to item and then dropping down the properties. As long as you're selected on this bone, you'll see one, but if you're selected on a different bone, you will actually not see a property. This is why it's important to do it to something like a root bone that won't be changing position, because then you don't have to find the bone that has the driver on it. So now that we've done this, and we changed that, we've actually made it a lot more flowy, so you gotta see how this gets that more cape-like flow. And this also has FK as well, so you don't have to be stuck to just using that one bone. You can rotate each and every single one of these bones and set it as a reset pose. But now what we want to do is we want to get this ready for automatic weights, so that way we can actually see what it's doing to the cape. Well, first thing, let's go ahead and separate the controller bones from the deforming bones. So then if we just select all of these, make sure you don't have any of the ball ones selected or the root bone. So now what we can do is we can go up to the running man over here, and you see where it says bone collections? This is where we can add our different sections that we can hide and unhide bones really easy. So in the second one, we'll name it deforming bones. And then we can actually just click assign, and that will assign all of these. Now notice that it has a white dot. This will tell you which groups it's assigned to. So we go up here, click remove, the dot will actually disappear. And this is how you can tell if any of your bones are actually in there. Now if we hide deforming bones, they all disappear. Now the nice part about this is it's already set up our other one as well, because it's already set up to the default one. So we can call it controller bone. Alright, now that we have all that set up, we can decheck all the bones that we don't want to deform with. So basically, select this center one, press Ctrl L, and then select all these other green ones over here. Ctrl L, and deselect all the gray ones right after that. Deselect these ones down here, because these are our extra bones, so we don't want it to actually deform our cape. Alright, so now that we've done that, and we have all the ones that we want selected, we can go Control I, and then go down to the bone, and then uncheck deform, right click it, and copy to selected. And now all the bones that we don't want to deform will not be deforming when we go to apply automatic weight. Alright, so for this part, what we want to do is we want to apply these. But before we apply this, let me talk about something. So if we go into wireframe mode, turn off optimal display to actually see what the subdivision surface is doing here. So you don't want too many vertices for these bones to have, otherwise it will look really weird. So I recommend just duplicating this, just in case if you can't go back later on. So just duplicate it, have it to the side with the modifiers on it. Stop it. If it's not the way that you like it, you can always go back to the original cap. So what we can do here is we can apply the solidify, and I did with 3 levels of subdivision and 3 levels on the render as well, so then you can apply that. And I'm applying it by hitting Control A and hovering over the modifier that I want to. And now as you can see, it's actual geometry. So what we can do now is we can select the mesh, and then our armature, Control P, and with automatic weights. And now it will actually work with our setup. So if we click one of these ones right here, you can notice it flows really well. So we can actually start seeing it work like a cape. Now, it's not a cape if it's just completely flat, right? So what we can actually do here is we want to rotate this down. Because we have FK, we can actually set it up like an actual cape. So what we can do here is first turn off the deforming bones, that way they're not in our way. And we can rotate this guy down. So if we rotate it on the x-axis, we can pick the direction that we want. So the last thing that we can do here is we can actually apply this as our reset pose instead of the flat one. And that just simply means when I go Alt-R, so that way it doesn't reset to this direction, but instead it will reset to this one. So to do that, we can go back to object mode, and then just duplicate this armature by pressing Shift-D. And when we do that, it will look really, really weird. So what we want to do here is just press Control-A on the second one, and when we apply that, that basically sets it up so that way it's in the position right here that we want it in. So the next thing that we can do is go back to pose mode on your actual armature, press A, Control A, and apply pose as rest pose. Now that we've done that, what happens is we can press Alt R, and it's actually set up in the same position that we left it now. And we got that nice cape pose. Alright, now we have our simple little cape rig. What we can do is we can move it around from here, or we can grab the root bone and move it around with the root bone and have a lot of fun with directions and such. Or we can use the FK to kind of make it feel like it's resting on the ground or something. So then we can bring it up, make it rest, or say there's an object under this portion of the cave. It's kind of resting on there and such. We can have a lot of fun with it. I hope you all enjoyed. And I will be making more tutorials here soon. I actually quite enjoy it. And yeah, thank you for watching.